Just Lisa.
Except one. Okay. Hi everybody, how are you? Nice to see you again. I received your cards, and I hope you're having fun doing that. I received some of your peer bars. Okay, and I know I had fun reading a little bit through those. Those are due tomorrow evening. Okay, so don't go too fast as in submitting them before class because nothing is gonna happen, right? So just take your the entire day. Just make sure you submit them by the end of the day, and that will be fun. And I received your marketing plan. Yes, please.
So it's your last name underscore peer review? Is that for this assignment?
On this one, I'm not that picky with how you name it. Just the bars was, but it's easier if you say last name underscore peer bars. That would be easier. Okay. They save easier. They save in alphabetical order. It's so much better. And one of my nightmares is matching those up right, not in the right manner. That's one of my nightmares that I have, and I checked it twice, and I hope, none of you actually are able to identify it. If that happened, I apologize. And I also got your marketing plan. I did not have a chance to look them over at all. The truth was that I was really sick over the past 2 weeks, and I never thought that I'd make it. I called my mom and I was crying everything. So I don't remember being so sick, frankly. And today is actually the first day in which I'm standing, and speaking. So hopefully we'll be fine. What we have today, and again, if I seem a little bit off, I apologize. Please don't take this as any commentary. I don't intend to be disrespectful. It's a damn virus or something. It's not me. It's them. Because I swear I don't think whatever went around, and I have pneumonia, like diagnosed by a doctor. I don't think that was natural. I bet it was a human, involved in there, because that was just too bad. So I'll try to read those and finalize my my comments for tomorrow. Hopefully, we'll do that. If not, I'll write them up and just send them by email by latest on Monday. Okay. With that. Any questions that you may have for me before we start today? Okay. What we want to do today is finalize our positioning and have a discussion about positioning and segmenting, because Amber was saying last time, what? I'm not so sure when we talk about these 2 dimensions in targeting and 2 dimensions in segmentation and 2 dimensions in positioning. I don't really understand what the difference between the 2 of them is. And the truth is that is the most difficult discussion anybody can have when it comes to segmentation versus positioning. What's the difference between the 2? Can we use the 2 dimensions? What does it really mean? So we're going to do that, and then we're going to talk a little bit about the product strategies. How do we deal with different types of products and how valuable they are to us, what we can do, right? So we're going to be taking a look at the Boston Consulting Group Matrix, okay? And then we're going to talk a little bit about new product development, and then we're going to have a guest speaker. She's going to talk to us a little bit about branding and product management. So she was supposed to come actually a little bit earlier, but she's gonna come at 4:30. Hopefully nothing is gonna happen. So that would be my plan for the next hours to go. So we did an exercise, right, in segmentation last time. I said you guys had a lot of fun, and it was about the yes, the pregnancy test. In the meantime, I got a couple of emails with with the ad from IKEA, which now issued an ad. Right, I don't know if you guys are familiar with, but IKEA issued an ad. You can get it to mail and you can actually pee on it. To see if you're pregnant, and you think, that's pretty interesting. I mean, clearly it's out there with respect to how original it is, right? And then you can take the act, and if you have good news, it will give you a cream. So, not bad. Yes, please.
There was a talk show, a radio host who was hysterical, and he was like talking about that attitude. Yeah, but a lot of times these women like sit in doctor's offices with magazines around. All of a sudden, this IKEA ad is in one of the magazines, and the lady takes it in the restroom and puts it back on the table.
That was the first thing that came to my mind. Like, is this sanitary? Is this safe? But apparently they have to have some sort of approval. I mean, FDA cannot just let you.
Right.
Yeah. So I haven't done any more reading on that, but definitely seemed interesting. So one of the things, right, that we all came in terms of segmenting, breaking out groups of people in something that is meaningful was their attitude towards whether they want to be expecting something, or, God forbid, they don't want to see a positive sign right there, right? So that meant that we identified one segmentation base, that's what we call a base or a variable, one meaningful element that when we group people around that particular element, right, they really differ significantly with respect to their reaction to the product at hand, right? So you put me in the group that I want a baby, guess what? I will be having what? A positive, right? Interest and a certain mindset towards that product. You put me in the other group, right? I'm going to have a different mindset, and of course, I'm going to react differently to the same product as the other group are playing with. So when it comes to segmentation, we can use any variable that comes to mind as long as the rival groups are meaningfully different. Now, what's the most different or the most difficult part when it comes to segmentation is, what does it mean, we identify groups, and what do we mean, how do we use that, okay? So there is a step, or if you want, there's a process that we can go through in order to segment any market that we have in mind. One, of course, is selecting the market for study, right? In our case, do you guys remember when we started with sexually active women? Guess what, right? That was our market. If none is sexual, right? If we don't define the market correctly, then we're going to expand our market, way beyond what we had in mind, and we don't want that, right? So obviously, the first thing that we do is make sure that we have the right market, sexual active women that, are really. Then we go with selecting basis for segmentation. In real life, what we do is create a list, right? Literally select a list of variables. We can start with age, data basis for segmentation. Remember how, unfortunately, age, gender, income, education, race, okay? These are part of what we call demographic segmentation basis, right? And we learned that they are probably the most useless, right? They're not too good because I divide a group between men and women, or young or old, or educated versus less educated, it doesn't really tell us anything about the final product. But that is what we call basis, right? Nobody can stop us. Other types of bases, which are a little bit more useful, are the psychographic ones. Graphic. Such as attitudes, values, lifestyle, and so on. So we can choose any of these, right? We can create a list of all the bases or all the variables that comes into our mind. But then what do we do with them? How do we actually use them, right, for segmentation? Number 3 is called select descriptor. What is a descriptor? A descriptor characterizes a basis of segmentation with respect to the amount of how much, right? How much of that particular base or how much of that particular attribute a group has. So let me take age because this is the easiest one. Okay, do you guys see? Do you see here, age? If I want to segment my, let's say our group here, in terms of age, how would I use age? How would I use age to describe you guys in our group?
Don't go there.
What?
I said, don't go there.
Oh, yeah. You're all 29, so you know what could I use maybe young versus old? No. Versus younger?
Right.
Versus younger?
So my attitude actually.
Again, so there's no commentary, okay? But I could use, right? So I can, if I want to play with age, right? I can split a group in and describe it as younger people and much younger people, right? Younger and much younger. I can do that.
Younger.
Right? How else I can use age to describe groups of people?
Category like 10 to 20.
Absolutely. Another way would be, right, 10 to, 15, 16 to 19, whatever it is of interest to me, right? 20 to 29, and so on, right? I'm using age, right? So I'm playing with age, but I'm referring to age in a different manner. I can use it in words, I can use it in numbers. How else I can use age? Agree.
Children versus adults.
Absolutely. Children versus adults. And this is, like I said, the most difficult part to get when it comes to descriptors. Because if I have a product, right, and then I choose to segment my groups, but then guess what? Let's say that I'm going with the easiest part, right? And I'm taking age. And then I'm gonna go and describe my groups as young versus younger, right? Then I will have to think about these two groups in that particular manner, younger versus, much younger. If I choose these particular, numbers, then I'll have to think, how do I measure it, right? How do I make sure that people are in between 10 to 15? Guess what? When I put a person in the younger versus young group, right, it's going to be an eyeballing. How would I assess that? How would I assess? Whereas if I use this particular type of description, I'm getting a little bit more what? Clear, right? And much more specific. That doesn't mean that this one is always better than this one, or this one is always better than this one, right? It just goes to show, or it just goes to show that one simple variable, right? Remember, age, which is the most useless one, right? We can use it in so many different ways to actually employ segmentation and how using the right descriptor really influences, if you want, how we take a look at our groups. Now, this is easy. How about if I delete the age, and let's say that we would like to segment and create descriptors, right? Yes, please.
Why is age not really good to do? Is that what you're
Oh, it is good if really makes a distinguishing difference between how the two groups or the three groups or 10 groups, whatever that come out as a result of us using age, are meaningful in their behavior towards product, right? Remember our discussion with learning? What is the purpose of class? Yeah, it's learning, right? And if I would use age, for example, or gender to group people by age or by gender, that means that I expect that people of different age learn differently, or people of different gender learn differently, right? Which not necessarily holds medical, to put it like that, right? We all learn, and what makes the difference in our learning, our cognitive abilities and other stuff, which are not necessarily correctly represented by gender or age, correct? Is that clear? More clear? Yes, please.
So what you're saying is that demographics don't actually directly impact, trying to determine if you're segmenting correctly, but it's more through the psychographic elements. So demographics impact the psychographic elements, which then tell you if
Yes.
it's the correct segment, right?
Best way to look at the demographics is that they are on top of something which is meaningful. That doesn't mean hey, if we would have segments and we would like to describe and profile and analyze our segments, we don't take our gender, and education and how much money this make into consideration. No, we want to have all this information. But the groups, the true, when you throw that line in between people and you actually divide them in groups, is by something which is a little bit more meaningful than just age and gender. It's usually the life cycle or psychographics, usually the value, attitudes, and lifestyle, how people behave, how people relate to something. Yes.
So the psychographics. So what I'm trying to say is the age isn't directly impacted, right? It's like if you pick an age group that's say like 30 to 40, those people are going to have different values and attitudes than someone who's 18. So that's why they're valuable, the demographics. But if you just see somebody themselves, they're not. It's like through their psychographics.
But they're not informative enough by themselves. So it's always better to have at least a couple of psychographic bases or variables that we're looking at, some meaningful, like I don't know, love or don't love dogs or animals, right? So usually, attitude towards animals is way more informative with respect to how people would react to a new product, on the dogs market or or cats market, than just the age per se. Okay. So if you want to use age on top of that, absolutely wonderful. Just age by itself and usually demographics in general, they just seem to be a little dry.
Yes. So how about the whole millennials, Gen Xers, Gen Yers? Is that a good? I hear people say that a lot, but then what is a millennial? And then there's depending on what website you look at, it's a big range, and it's not really clear. And there's a lot of overlap, but there seems to be so much focus on that as a marketing.
Yes, that doesn't mean that is right. So you're absolutely right, and your question is absolutely valid. Everybody's talking about millennials, which is a coin, a term coined by some guys who just wanted to write a popular marketing book, and they just had to come up with something, and they came up with a term. And you're absolutely right. Basically, who is part of the millennial generation changes every year because, this year is going to be 1978. Last year was everybody, after 1977, and stuff like that. So obviously, just like you're saying, right, just basically grouping people by simply because they were born at some particular point in time, it really doesn't make sense. Among millennials, one of the biggest discussion is that there are so many different values and so many, different or varieties in terms of how millennials live and how they, what they believe in and how they behave, that actually marketing to millennials is probably the worst mistake that we can do. And I think we discussed it last time, right? If you have someone trying to come back and say we're going to market and target millennials, it's probably someone that you would want to hire simply because it means that they just use what? Age, right? Okay, so that would be another example of how we look at people, millennials, Gen X, boomers, and all that. That's just another way of describing age. And again, age by itself has a single, segmentation basis. It's just a dry one. It doesn't tell us anything. Whereas, right, when we want to know about millennials, what do we ask them? What do they believe in, right? Attitudes, values, who are their peers? What do they, do they in their spare time? Which is what? All psychographics, right? So again, it tells us that we need to look at more. So that's what we mean when we say we select descriptors, right? We look at that particular way in which we define the variables that we selected, right? And try to measure, try to quantify based on that. And then what we want to do is, of course, we want to make sure that we know how many people are in the groups that we created. Usually we need, MRI data or some sort of census data that actually counts, the number of people that exist within the market. And if we have time, maybe tomorrow I'll show you about the databases that I was telling you guys, right? I don't know if you guys know, but we have access to some databases that would probably cost maybe around $20,000 to $30,000 a month to actually have access to, and they're for free. You can access them through the UNLV library, the MRI databases, the passport, and all these, in terms of, marketing. And usually, we pay for someone to profile and analyze our segments. Profiling means really understanding their personas, what people like, creating some sort of stereotypical figure, right, of that particular segment. Understand whether they're big enough to go after them. If they're big enough, then we go and then we target. We select them as target. If they're not big enough, just forget about them. And then we move on into what we call position, which really means we take that particular little segment that we created and then we start playing with their heart and their minds, which is a different kind of a thing. You had your hand up?
Yeah, I was kind of curious as far as that item that you mentioned is in a library that we have access to.
Yes.
How granular does it get to, and is it based on industry? Is it based on certain regions? What is that?
It's based on everything. Actually, it's wonderful depending on what kind of data you want to have. You have access to industry data, you have access to consumer data, and you have access to international market data. And all you have to do, okay, maybe I can show you right now because I think it's a very valuable information. And I would want you guys to know about it. So, the library. So you guys are familiar with this website? Yeah. Library.unlv. So you're gonna go here to list of databases. Okay? And you can select from the all subjects, basis, okay? And you're gonna come up with 75 databases. Now, I go directly to the letter M, and it gives us, for example, just for M, at least, 2 databases, extremely valuable. So you guys, you literally have to spend, $5,000 for each of these reports, okay? Wow. So let's say, on this one I need a code. I don't know my code. Let's see if I remember it by heart. But you'll have to create a code, or, as long as you have a UNLV. Let's see. Let's try with that. And then, on break, I'll try to remember my password and show you actually the trick. I agree on this one. And for example, here, let's say, let's say beauty devices. It will give you, for example, in this particular one, information about the market, the size, market breakdown. Let's take a look at the market breakdown. Okay, so it really tells you what happened on the market, who is the biggest, player, what's the size of the market. These are usually industry level information. So if you're doing any type of industry level work, the MRI, this one is about consumer. It actually calculates, the the size of the segments bigger. For example, share of select US haircare and skincare beauty devices by segment. Going back, brand. Let's see. It will tell you again, if you're doing any sort of work with respect to the industry level data, and you guys need that, you should find it in Mintel. Let's see what else we have. Data. Okay. And in the data books, you have all the Excel file with, for example, how many people use what kind of beauty? This should be interesting for us, ladies, right? Do we have any interest in blow dryer, curling iron, right? Product usage by demographics. For example, again, female, breakdown by age, sample size, I think it's 1 million, and any information you can think of. Gender and age, again, this is for you, Jen, right? There we go. By generation, millennials, how many of them were included in the final sample size, and basically, all kinds of questions that they have. Like, you need to pour over, and you can see this is like unbelievably big. What else do we have? Where do they shop? For example, in this particular case, 1,022 female internet usage, age 18 plus, who user interested in. Percentage, 52% shop at Amazon.com. So if any of you interested or doing some sort of report on, the beauty devices industry, there you go. At least from, directly from here, where do we shop? 52% Amazon. Actually, that's a little low if you think about it, right? Think about this one here, mass merchandisers, Walmart. Ulta, the farmer store, Sephora. Actually, Walmart, in every single study that we did, emerges as such a strong competitor to Amazon, like you wouldn't believe. And including the skincare and beauty market, they have created now, I don't know if you've been to the Eastern location, they have now in the middle of the store like a beauty aisle in which you can actually go and you can have, skincare consultations, and it's a completely new retail format for that because they really want to take on to this, to this market. So that's it. Retail shop by demographics. How many people shop at Amazon, and there are females with this age and gender? Okay, so it's enormous amount of information. Only in Minta. Okay, this is just Minta. And like I said, I'll show you if I find my password, the MRI data, which is actually a little bit more interesting. So that would be, just Minta. And you can focus your report. You can select only, parts of the groups that your guys are interested in. It's, wonderful. It's just Minta. Like I said, for MRI, if you guys have time, just create a password so you can access it on your own. Also, we have in S, Siemens, OneView, and Statista. If you guys are interested for some sort of, social media information or some sort of statistics that you just want to use very quickly, right? Statista is actually calculating it for us, and you can export it. You can find any kind of statistic, and you can actually calculate it for you if you can select it. So it's in the S. You can use Siemens OneView as a great database, and the Statista again as a great one. And let me show you this one. This is the database for stalkers. It's called Reference USA.
Stalkers.
Yes. Okay. Let's see.
I know.
Search.
We'll see.
First name. Anna. Pomeriano. Henderson, Nevada. Details. Sorry. It will find you and it will find about you.
What? Like where you are? Is it-
Where you are, who are your neighbors, and the summers.
Oh, so we meant for stalkers.
There we go. What do you want to know about me? Yes.
In those 6 years.
Everything. I'm not saying that it's 100% accurate, but if I go and search Len Jessup here, you'll find out that he lives in a very rich area. So, estimated household income, home value, since where you've been doing, whatever you've been doing. For some people, they actually have this score, okay? Age, ethnicity. I'm Eastern European. Let's everybody close your eyes, so this is not. I am Eastern. What?
You're the younger group.
Thank you. But anyway, so you should have a little bit of fun with reference. You say you'll be.
Oh, no.
It's crazy what you can find.
That's
Anyways,
crazy.
so
Yeah.
just so you know, like I said, at least meet the M databases, the MRI university, the JFK one is literally $10,000 worth of information per month, and you guys have access to it for free. So, and in terms of marketing, it actually calculates you these segments and how big the market is and what happens on the market. Yeah. So maybe one day I'll just take some time to maybe we can play together. And only once we decide how big these segments are, then we can go and target them and select them.
So are those the databases that places like Spoku and those kind of, online check out, somebody that you paid for? Are they those databases? Is it all like the same
Most likely.
data?
Most likely. And it's not just that, there's also US passport. So if you guys are interested in, global information, you have access to it. Euro report and all that. Just kind of, spend some time and familiarize yourself with that. Now, all this segmentation and have these people put in groups, the old way or the old school. Now, because of the internet and because of all these databases that can tell you whether you're, Eastern Orthodox or you believe in Yoda, I believe in Yoda. So in that particular case, they're completely wrong with me, with my religion. Right now, because of the internet, and they're able to tell at every single point in time what we do with our telephone, right? And if you are not smart enough as I was, to link your cell phone with your computer, right, you will find out that there's nothing that don't know about you, right? Okay, so what we do, we use this behavioral targeting, and we find out by each person individually what they like and they want. That means I don't have to put people in groups anymore. Now, in the future of the internet, the future of marketing, is what we call one-to-one marketing or one-to-one segmentation, in which all of us are part of a group of n size equals 1. And because we like stuff on the internet, because we spend more than 3 seconds on a certain particular web page, they can record that and they can express the fact that we have an interest in that, right? If we share something, they are able to really better describe and create a profile of what we do, right? So obviously, this particular segmentation becomes more efficient, and the subsequent positioning can be even better, right? Because they can mess up with our brains. Now let's talk a little bit about positioning. And if you guys remember, I gave you this particular piece of paper. Okay, so what I want you to actually do is, because there's 5 of you or 6 of you in a group. I want you to first get into it and then kind of compare how far you are, right? So let's say take the Coca-Cola and see how far you are or how different you are on the positioning of the Coca-Cola, right? Or the positioning of what else we have here, of milk, or healthy tea, or whatever. Okay? So do that. Let's play a little bit with this, and then I'll take it over once you guys are done discussing, how far individual position perceptions are. Okay?
Okay. Should I go there? I'll go there. So I'm confused myself. What? Like, what is it?
Not nutritious or adult. Yeah, you're right. I don't think it's creamer, sugar, Kahlua. Okay. You got it. But I mean, for kids, I have it in how about you? Yeah, what are the three? Coffee, okay. How about the upper left? Everything else basically is on the line. Yeah, I have herbal tea, and then
I wasn't.
I don't know what they do. No. Kids? Yes, I put on the interesting. I like that. You put coffee in love. Oh, yes, yes. Some of it is well, orange juice it's fresh. It's not healthy at all. No water for adults or kids. And then okay, so where would you position the new I would say. Yeah, but I
actually put it on
well, I have it in the lower right. That nutrition. So that's my strategy.
Where everything was.
No competitors. A lot of volunteers. I'm gonna position my. Totally. So. The market is not saturated. There's developing visuals for kids No, I don't know. I don't know nutrition. Well, but the reason why I think is because it's more competitive. So I can find something. Well, there was no Facebook before I made Facebook. There was no advertising.
Yeah, I agree with Christine.
You create a need.
Yes, I just put it up there.
With advertisement, with demos.
Unhealthy children.
I guess one thing about diet.
Oh, why would you ever do that?
But it doesn't have to be unethical or harmful.
Where there's more demand. Where there's more demand.
I want to market share. I want rather than compete with Coca-Cola.
Yeah, so but it is.
It's not. We lack the enzyme.
Juice box. Juice box. You put pictures of food on there. I've been reading.
But we opened it as discussion.
Something that mom seems to say, but my kids can't get church.
Well, my second market was not for adults. Well, because they could put
That's why it's really
Drink here or mix
So that's why I kind
I
of.
don't know. I don't know.
You don't have to look at those numbers. This is an exercise. You have to like, now that where's my kid?
Oh, yeah.
I call and try to feel it. So a lot of times they have
Yeah.
And I think the next one was nutrition is natural for kids, for children. And the product that had.
How far are you from
Close. We don't have this big hole right in here.
Next to the milk.
You know, at some point in time, there was something like that.
Oh, there still is. There still is.
Maybe
Then Capri Sun.
or Capri Sun.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, just like it's large, exactly. So, you know. We're gonna exactly.
Going back to what you have there, lifestyle.
Yes, when I say
I'm
I'm
talking about that, which is
layers.
something that we do.
Cool, but yeah.
So some electrolytes in there.
Yeah, that's right. It's doing these right now. We have like you can already answer. Yeah. Well, we tried that in
She was right as the alcohol is. Where used to go with
Oh. That'll be for the adult.
Yeah.
They probably need more. Probably need more, yes. Capri Sun double Hey, you only do that once.
I watched her go full on tangent, arch my whole back. Yeah.
Well, but breakfast is not a, it's not a.
We need this, so I can stop using this. You do that all the time. Nowadays, it's great to CBS.
Yeah.
What are the dimensions of children?
There's not.
Yeah.
My. So we were. Not necessarily following your lead. I think it's gotta be.
Well, one of the things that we were discussing earlier was sports drinks versus non-drinks. And then mentioned.
Non-nutritious children. Although.
Yeah.
It could be so. That's all
Well, I bought it because I did. And then I felt guilty, so it's just, if it feels like paper, like when you write on it.
So who makes it?
It's just called Remarkable.
I also make the pen that highlights
They highlight, but it's all black and white.
well, there's a pen that highlights like the log right here, so I can highlight this word and then how much time it has.
Oh.
And I
Ready?
yeah.
I'm not very good at it. They had it figured out in a second. So
I did not know what that is, but it caught my eye and it looks fun. I would not know what it is. What is it?
I'm still figuring it out too.
That is so good. I don't know, again. I don't know.
But it's the I write on my notes, all the different classes and stuff. So, yeah, it's fun.
Okay.
I take a screenshot.
Okay. So let me show you how cool this thing with the positioning is. So you guys went all in groups, right? And number one was you realize that even for a simple thing like coffee, right? Each of us has a different perception, right? some of us might find it more towards adults, some maybe towards more kids, some more towards natural, maybe some more towards artificial, and so on, right? The point is, every single one of our customers is being driven by their perceptions. The point is, for marketers, is that the perceptions of many, many, many customers be as close as possible, because if we have a target market full of people who are confused with respect to what our product stands for, guess what? We're in big trouble, right? Now, positioning is making sure that we communicate about our product to our customers in such a way that when they hear the name of the brand, everybody converges to the highest degree possible. Of course, it's not going to be 100%, right? But everybody converges to the highest degree possible, if you want, on certain dimensions, certain characteristics that define our products that are of value to our customers. Now, let me show you how it actually starts and how we end up using a map with 2 dimensions, and why exactly just these 2 dimensions and not, other more, right? So what we do when we don't know what to do, when we have a new product and we want to make sure that we communicate about it in a clear manner to our customers, is we ask our people in our target market to describe that product to us, okay? And what we do is we create a list of descriptors, okay, in terms of how people perceive that product. For example, for a brand of skincare and cosmetics that we just did, we had a list and people came up with maybe 25 types of how they describe their cosmetics and their skincare. And they used the words such as conservative. So people, looked at, for example, Mary Kay and thought that Mary Kay is a conservative brand. The opposite of that conservative word would be, of course, more modern, right? And then we asked them, so how else would you describe our brand, right? We usually put them in a focus group, give them a drink, or the product to play with, and while they play with it, they come up with these words. In other words, they said, well, Too Faced, for example, it's a fun brand, right? We'll make sure we put the word fun in our list. And we were very interested in what's the opposite of fun, of course, which is, boring. Maybe with respect to other products, maybe a different word would be the opposite, right, or the anthem. Also, they listed, the brand as being young, right? So we were interested in the opposite. Natural, right? Natural products. Whether it was exciting, right? Like, what's the brand of Rihanna? The new one. Okay. Exciting. Everybody was very interested, in getting that. Or, effective. So that's how we start. We have a product. We ask people to come up with list of words, right, that they can relate to that product. And then we make sure we list them the most important. Guess what? If they come up with 100, we can't play with 100 of them, right? We also ask them, what is most important to you? So out of a list of 100, we select maybe, let's say, 5, 7, 10, whatever it is that we can play with. And then we list them one underneath each other. And then we ask them, if you are going to express, your feelings about brand A, okay? Brand A. Let's say L'Oreal. How would you guys find brand L'Oreal in terms of being conservative versus modern? More conservative, right? Mm-hmm. How about more fun versus boring? More boring, right? L'Oreal. How about young versus old? More old. How about natural versus non-natural? More artificial. I think the middle. How would you perceive L'Oreal? Middle? Okay, I have no problem with that. How about exciting versus bland? Bland. More bland, right? How about working versus non-working? Is it working? So, non-effective maybe more towards here?
No.
Yeah, right? So I would say that if I calculate, average of everybody that, I would say that my brand, L'Oreal, right, has this kind of a profile. And then I would want to maybe take another brand. Let's take cycling brand.
Urban Decay.
Mac.
Yeah, or
Mac. What? Mac? Mac. Okay, let's take Mac. How would we? Brand number B. Okay, this is one. Where would Mac be here in this dimension? Modern. How about fun versus boring?
Fun.
More fun. How about young versus old?
Yeah.
Young. Very young or maybe?
Yeah. A little old.
Okay. How about natural versus, more artificial?
Natural.
Non-natural, right here. Interesting. How about exciting versus bland? Exciting. Very exciting. How about working versus non-working? Guess what? My competitor has a completely different profile, correct? Now, here I'm playing with, right? And this allows me, based on this, I create all these ads and all those, beautiful things, right? Because I know this is how people perceive me, right? Now, guess what? At some point in time for regular people, okay? It's kind of difficult to work with 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 11 dimensions, right? So what we do, remember, we always ask them, but what is the most important thing for you when it comes to a brand of cosmetics? And probably people will say that it works, because it better than work or not, because otherwise, why, okay. So it would be maybe one dimension that I definitely need to hit, and maybe, let's say that is, I don't know, young or fun, or it doesn't really matter, right? So one of these plus another one. So this is how we end up, right, out of the list with everything based on, first of all, we can see at a glance how different people on the market are, right? And then we want to kind of, make it smaller, boil it down to just 2 dimensions, right? That matter the most to people. So in case of cosmetics, I think it was that it works and that it's natural, so people are very, very much interested in that. So what we do, we want to create a map, a positioning map. We have literally the 2 most important dimensions, right? It works versus it does not work, right? And the other dimension would be that is natural versus non-natural. And then we position all our competitors, everybody that's on the market, on these 2 dimensions that we decided based on what people told us that they matter. And that's what you guys just did, right, with this one. Only you did it with, drinks. Right. But that's how, let's say, we came up with the dimensions about adults versus kids and nutritional versus non-nutritional. Now let's say, and let's stick with our drinks here because we have that example. So one is adults, and natural. And number one problem that you guys had was that not everybody was completely in agreement to wear those, different products or brands, right? If we can, only do it with Coca-Cola, or we can with all kinds of beverages, we can play with this particular positioning map or value map, and you will see in your links, that's what you guys are going to find out. You're going to find alpha and beta. That's what your research information is going to come up. It will tell you how much or where people perceive your product to be in terms of a combination of alpha and beta. Or alpha, more beta, here, or here, or here, or here. Each market is going to have one point, which is ideal, right? And if you guys were 5 of you, one would have been probably here, one exactly on top of it, right? One maybe here. Your team is going to have to what? Find out what this ideal point is and create a product that is as close to ideal position on the market as possible, right? So that's the whole point of positioning and understanding this. But going back to our drinks here, right? So let's see, what were the drinks?
That's a question for you.
Yeah, sure.
The alpha and the beta you're talking about, is that the alpha and the beta of the product?
Right.
And so, if it's like less than 0, does that mean, because there's like, it has to be a number, right? It's gotta be like 0 or above that, so does that mean like, the one that on the left, it's 0?
I understand what you're asking. Sometimes you may have just this particular quadrant. If this is 0, basically it won't tell you anything, right? Because there's no minus, right? So in that particular case, when you guys are going to look at your research, it's actually going to show you what? One single quadrant, right? Because you cannot have negative
Values.
quantities.
Okay, thank you.
But it's basically the same thing, only a little focus on this quadrant or, So, let's see, what else we have here? We have coffee. Where did you guys put coffee? Somewhere around here, maybe?
Yep.
Yeah?
Here.
Here? Coffee? Okay. Actually, I can just copy one. I can use it. It doesn't really matter. Oh my God, you were with the coffee in a completely different location.
Show that, Marge.
What?
They did it on the board already.
It's too small. Liquor. It doesn't really matter. Why do I say it doesn't really matter?
It's one person's perception.
Exactly. Mineral water. OJ. Milk. Okay, fine. And tomato juice. Tomato juice. Okay. And let's say these are great. So you guys came up with it. It doesn't really matter what I believe. It's my one person individual perception. At the level of the market, we have a what? Summary, right? It will still look something similar to that. Now, on this positioning map, we can see what? It has 4 quadrants, right? Each quadrant is determined by a combination of 2 of the most important, right, dimensions that we in real life ask our customers and see, try to understand which one is obviously of consequence. What happens if we have 1 or 2 or no competitors in a quadrant? How can we take a look at this positioning map and how can we use it, for any sort of decision making? Yes, please.
Well, it's kind of like the chicken and the egg. You can move any of those to any direction just by marketing. So if you see everybody's marketing towards adults and natural, you think maybe there's a market for really bad for children. You could just market, like milk and say, well, milk gives you cancer. It's really good for children. But you can move it kind of where you see.
Interesting. So what he's saying here, so number 1 distinction between segmentation and positioning is that positioning is what? Fluid. Positioning, it can be, right? I mean, we still have the same product that has the same attributes. Our segments are going to be the same. People that can afford or not afford, people who benefit or don't benefit from milk. But the way they relate to milk, whether it makes you smart or sexy or whatever you said, or because you said something cool, Right? I can change that in my communication next year, right?
You see that in order to.
Exactly. So that would be, if you want, difference number one between segmentation and positioning. Segmentation, it's very clear, right? It's gonna stay there. These are the groups because these groups are meaningful. But positioning, the way I talk about it in such a way that today maybe you feel like orange juice is super cool and good for drinks. It doesn't have to be forever, and that's why communication and advertising campaign. That's why we kind of change them from year to year to just make sure that if we have too little of a space in between our competitors, right? What do we want to do with positioning and communication? We want to be as far away so that people don't confound us, right? That's the whole point. And we use this map to see how easy it is for people to kind of confound our product and whether we differentiate ourselves from the competitors or any other product on the market. So it's very important for us that we are not the same. We do not want to be the same. We want to have our own space very clearly, in our customers' mind. However, just because we have many competitors in one quadrant for adults and natural, for example, okay, is that an absolute indication that there is no space for a new competitor? What do you guys think? What would deter us to move with a new product, into a space which, is crowded? Yes, please.
Well, your customer's already there, and it's obviously a preference, and so that may show the reason why you would want to go there. It's because that's where the customer is.
Very interesting. Remember that for your link simulation. And that's why, I forgot who asked me, I think it was you, about being the first mover, right? Guess what? When you're the first mover and you create a product with the right specification of alpha and beta, you're going to be the one here, right? So what you're telling me is like, there is a preference. Everybody would want to kind of move in into my market because it's probably a very good attractive market. But at the same time, because you're coming after, you're going to be paying a little bit of royalties, right? Okay, so you're going to have to come up with something much better and much closer to the ideal point, so people prefer your product, which is coming a little late, versus the product who's already establishing and existing on the market, right? But that doesn't mean just because someone is on the market that you cannot successfully jump in. All we have to do is find out what? That ideal point, right? What is the right combination of, alpha and beta in this particular case, whatever, I wish there would be, better descriptions, but that's all we can do, right? So coming up with that ideal point and creating a product that really, gets in that. Now, the opposite question to that is, just because a quadrant is empty, would that make it a non-interesting segment of the market at all? Yes, please.
I would say that it's maybe a sign that there's some opportunity that someone, they haven't hit it yet, you just have to find the right option.
Right. And how do we do that in links? Consumer preference research. Basically doing that, is telling us what or those dimensions are most valuable and what people actually would want to pay money for. Yes,
is this for you with the trends though too, like in this specific case, the non-natural, the reason it's probably inducing because they're so far away from it, with children especially, because that just wasn't.
I'm sorry, would you mind please repeating? I don't think I got it.
It's okay, I was just saying, when they see an area, if we're trying to see if there's something valuable there, and when we look at maybe market trends over the past few decades or whatever, to see that, like we used to have, what did I say? No, Kool-Aid. Kool-Aid was huge when I was a kid.
Exactly.
I mean, they came out with the pop all that. Now it's like, you don't see kids.
Now it's a no-no because we don't.
You're a bad parent. You have that with your kids much.
Absolutely.
Lots of judgment.
Lots of judgment.
Isn't there still a market for this?
There is, like, still exists, yeah.
Absolutely,
I'm
that's
saying that,
why,
like, they're still around, so there is, but I don't
But
know if
parents
that's.
don't care.
that's why, remember number 4 profile and analyze segments. As long as the segment is big enough,
Oh.
and you don't care that, you know, it's got MSG in it or whatever. I mean, we don't necessarily, there is a difference between ethical and non-ethical and healthy versus unhealthy, and, you know, if you're in the business of making money, we're in the business of making money, and that's it, you know? But you're absolutely right? In real life, we want to make sure that we always keep a check on those dimensions that are important to consumers, right? And always make sure that when we communicate, we kind of position and, you know, hits those things that are actually valid to, you know, to our customers. I'm going to stop for now here, and then I'll show you some examples of how people also did it. I'm going to like it. Kind of lost it. Yes, yes, yes. So is this, Amber, is this a little bit more clear what the difference between the two for segmentation, you know, because in segmentation, you can use age. If you describe age, for example, in 5 to 10 years old, and 10 to 12, or whatever, you can have like 100 groups, right? Whereas here in these dimensions, that's it. It's kind of like a continuum. It's how we perceive it. Yeah, so it's a big difference with respect to what they mean. And sometimes, yeah, we may have the same base for segmentation, like age, but also for positioning, you know, and that sometimes makes it a little bit more difficult. But it's all about what matters. Yeah. Yes.
Two things. One has to do with the database, but the other one has to do with this question earlier on. So we mentioned the technology, but that just has to do with
Right.
So that is something that we're doing right now. Yeah. Where, for example, there's a drug from the digital standpoint already on the program. So whenever it's essentially that education, so you will log in, it's a call they're trying to do, but it's not. So right now there's something called co-op participant, which is, let's say Southwest is part of that co-op. Authenticate to Southwest.com.
Oh my God, and then everything you do on there gets.
Whether or not you're authenticated, we just tie it all together.
I'm getting paranoid because sometimes I'm looking at my cell phone. I'm like, when I'm not doing it, when I, you know, I really need that. Yeah.
The fact that you go.
Yeah.
So it's around. Navigation pump. It's tracking the fact that how many times you go, the fact that you stay in that place where it happens. You go there, you think all that time. Oh, just to go home. How did you know that? So it's really a thing that that's fine for me at this point. We're also comfortable with.
Yeah.
I think we're comfortable because we actually don't know exactly what is happening.
Sure, but think about it.
Entirely. I mean, we have an idea, but we know, but we don't actually know what it is. Give me a report of everything going on. I'll be like, I'm more comfortable with the fact that I got this kind of things last week, and I'm going to, you know, something good for this, you know.
I'm still struggling with that because there are consumers that agree with that. But there's something that's going okay with it. They're making money out of it. Like it's when someone tells you, hey,
Yeah.
use it by the way, I'm trying to do it.
Oh, I'm so excited.
Because you do this, you're going to do that, and touch it, okay, well.
Yeah, our email
You're right. You tell them all that.
for business. And when people find out that they pay more for rooms in hotels just because they use the Napo, it's just sicker. They were not happy about it. You know what I
So
mean?
that's kind of what we're doing now. Like, that it's the way it is how actually has a defensive book. It's very important. We'll just promote suicide and you'll why.
Yeah.
It's-
Going down for where?
So the second thing was the database. You mentioned it.
Like
How long can one actually have access to almost as long as you have a That one's, or as long as you're also involved.
Maybe if you're also that you can ask for the library. But for sure, as long as you're involved.
What's your favorite?
Yeah.
What's your favorite point?
I just want the MRI.
Not the mental.
See, each of them has a different applicability.
Okay.
So, I'm interested in calculating markets. You guys know what the market is, like what the segments are, and how the segments different. MRI, it just kicks it.
More than a psychographic perspective.
It's more, you know, at the, yeah, exactly, at the industry level, industry trends, not consumer level. Yeah.
Is it like, there has to be a lag, there has to be like a lag in terms of.
Yeah.
And those don't have a lot of comparison. Yes. So I think you need to talk to all of that.
It's okay, but definitely, you know, if you have time, just get in there and get a, well, I know that our business is not, I know that it has been accepted. They are so valuable and we just don't use them enough. And the more we use them, the more we have access to them. So that's why I'm trying to tell you guys that I'm just getting there and use them. So, so we're going through, sorry. Yeah. Between 8 and 16, oh God. Yeah, parentheses, and so for them, it's $10 for annual registration. And then it's racks, so that they have like, $2 in mailboxes, like $5 in a month. If I want to email arcade, well, I'll email arcade. For 5 months. You know how it is. That's what it's like. Sometimes you think they have nice.
Oh, yes, yeah, it is. You always, oh my gosh. It's like bristle.
Like you stop.
Yeah, I did what you did to me. Here it is.
Yeah, that's
Sometimes it does.
Sometimes
it does. I know exactly.
He did it? Eric did it? Oh,
There's a knot there. I'm like, well, there is now.
Like cramping up, what?
I don't really have, like, I feel like there's like a knot there.
Oh, how do you handle that?
On the right. So I'm like, great, we're looking for the right shoe and then the website. So I yeah. I know
Oh, yeah.
Did they tell you what it was on from the other? Yeah, they did, right? They told everybody that.
Some, one that did that test, yeah.
And then they told you that it was like $5,000 to $10,000 to go through multiple ways to be in the city.
No.
Yeah. I didn't do it. I didn't do it.
So that was like one of just the puppets.
Oh, they didn't know they
You did that? So, what are you doing?
And then I go, like, chiropractic, because when I went, they told me to take one or the other, and they told me I forgot which one I was supposed to put it in, and then I started to use it, because they didn't want to unlocking even worse. And then they said I had to go to a swing over like 5 weeks, and then I was waiting, and it was like 5 months.
You got some fruitcake. Yeah.
So I don't have, until you do, the only second chiropractor on
Like, that's just like a couple of.
I said I was paranoid for a while.
Wow, that's just from that can be a tip for next class, you should put everything. Oh, yeah. That's all we did was play cards.
Yeah, I make jeans, I don't want to be shorter than the other. That's what you do.
You want to be there, shake it out, never shoes.
We're gonna take just one of them.
I don't know what that is. I'm like, oh, yeah.
Are you going to share?
What are you giggling about?
What this is a replay. Everything happens in the middle of the night. So Charles is true.
Thank you so much for that.
What's the max of the kid? It's like, how much is when it's on?
Oh, God.
It was, take your racket and like bend over on it.
No, really.
I built 102 out, but it was way higher.
Oh, yeah, they said they measured the core temperature. It was about a 2 or something. They have, on the main stadiums, they have cameras. Really, they have those, but it's the same thing.
I haven't watched much of it.
Whoever put sunchips on their list.
Hey.
Huh? Or whoever put sunchips on their list. Oh, you did? Mm-hmm. Eastern is horrible.
I'm staying out there.
Where are you staying?
Not that hard, really. All you do is restate the question. Put in a little blurb on it and say whether or not you agree with it.
Yeah, it's a sugarless, it's like flowers.
Yeah.
I guess more sugar. That's the only thing that's holding it together.
Yeah.
Really, I don't understand that. So I take out.
That is good.
Huh? I'll tell you, my mind, like, my whole stance on the paper.
Okay. So just to give you an idea how positioning can really change the way we look at the same product, right? When I say Mercedes-Benz, what is the first thing that comes to your mind?
Say what?
Mercedes. Mercedes. Mercedes.
Quality,
Money, expensive. Okay.
Right.
German.
German. Thank you, Amber.
Oh.
Yeah. How about BMW? BMW.
Sporty.
Sporty. Okay. So see, it's much more easier, right, to kind of converge on the same idea, right? That's them having a good position. And unfortunately, in this life, we sell everything, not just cars and not just jewelry, and sometimes we have detergents. That's simply because apparently last year people started eating Tide Pods.
What is that?
I do not know what that is, but in case you didn't know,
I know, but
they
why?
eat them.
Eat, like eat?
They eat them. They put it in their mouth and they eat them.
Oh,
And it's apparently a crazy, insane kind of thing, among kids. So you guys, if you have kids, don't,
We'll do that once.
all these are brands that are actually owned by the same manufacturer. This is very interesting, right? So we have the same manufacturer. Many times, the attributes of the products are actually very similar or very indistinguishable when it comes to the power, right? The only thing that can set them apart is actually positioning. Or how do we describe this to our target market in such a way that we make the distinction between our competitors as wide as possible, right? And make sure we are very clearly understood. For example, with Tizen, it's still the same. Tough, powerful cleaning. And here we have tough cleaning, but with color protection, right? And all the ads and all that maintain and specifically are designed in such a way that we know if you have colored clothes, you better use cheer instead of using tie. Now, of course, they have tie for colorful clothes, so the waters are becoming muddier and muddier with respect to which one is the best detergent, right, for colored clothes. But again, the point is, even though you own the same brands and many times the products are indistinguishable with respect to the attributes per se, the only difference is actually being done by positioning, by the way we communicate about it. And in general, when we communicate about a product, we have two areas. One is we simply communicate about our product, and that's it. And we tell people how our product is good or bad or whatever it has. Or we communicate about our competitors. So we don't necessarily refer to our product, but we position ourselves compared to, my opposition, my candidate, my whatever, arch nemesis is this, right? So we have two big ways versus competitor or based on the product. Now, when it comes to product positioning, right? So communicating about products, we can communicate about product attributes. That's the easiest thing to do, right? And tell people how we differ, how ours are better. For example, beers, they talk about, light beer taste or filling. In toothpaste, we talk about, mint. We talk about, the taste, whether they whiten the teeth, whether they protect the enamel, right? So if you go back to look at all these things, it would be very easier to identify the benefits that the products bring to our life. Or Levi's, for example, the brand that fits. Let me tell you about attributes of the product. And by the way, I quit smoking, because all this dying and stuff. So yeah, so it's 2 weeks. So maybe that's another thing. Because I couldn't breathe, but I intended to do that. So that's what But this is a great example of how Lucky Strike, which is a beloved brand of cigarettes, was able to position themselves based on the product attribute. Okay, so up until then, because of the regulation and because the advertisers just didn't pay attention, all the cigarettes looked the same, and all the cigarettes on the market were not differentiated at all. Everybody was smoking, cigarettes. That's it. And then Lucky Brand came and said, you know what? We want to look at something that maybe will help us set ourselves and our product apart from, other products that exist out there on the market. So they came up with the idea that their tobacco is toasted. It doesn't mean that other products were not toasted. It's just people were not talking about it, okay? So they came up with this idea and they said, hey, our product is better because our tobacco is toasted. Does it really make it taste better? Yeah, I'm telling you that because it's toasted, it tastes better. Was that true or not? It doesn't matter. Lucky Strike they made their own space, right? Versus everybody in one bucket, toasted versus everybody else, right? So it was simply talking about the attribute of the product. They were not talking about their competitors. Our tobacco, is toasted. Sometimes, Yes, please.
Just gonna add to that Lucky Strike example. They highlighted that it was toasted, but the competitors also toasted their tobacco there. But they just corrected.
But that's what I'm saying. They were the first ones to what? Talk about it,
Yeah.
right? Make it a part of their communication campaign. And people are like, guess what? Sometimes, if you don't have an attribute of the product that actually you can put your finger on, you can invent one, which is exactly what Bud Light actually did. There is no such thing which is called drinkability. I know I'm not a native speaker, but I definitely checked the dictionary on this one, and actually that's why I always remember this example, because they invented an attribute of the product. So their product doesn't, you know what I mean? It doesn't even, what attribute? Let's just invent one. And they created, they had it for 2 years almost, this ad campaign in which they set themselves apart and they position themselves on the market as being the most drinkable beer because it had, drinkability. And they actually went even further. They created the equivalent in Spanish, which I think it was drinkabilidad. I mean, not even, you know what I mean? It was drinkabilidad, because it just sounded Spanish. So complete invention, right? But it was, positioning based on product attribute. Sometimes. So that would be based, like I said, based on product attributes. But we can talk about, we can differentiate our product based on who uses it, the product user or usage, and also by the product class that, for example, we want to set ourselves apart. So let me give you this example, okay? And sometimes I like to take a stroll back in the history. So Kellogg's, right? Kellogg's. See, everybody has probably a Kellogg's. Everybody knows about it, okay? They have this ad. So the harder a wife works, the cuter she looks. I don't think they can get away with this today. You know what I mean? But it is. Hey, it was the user. Look, it's about the woman, the wife. It's the user. It's for her, right? Or in 1950, like again, a brand that exists to this day, probably we all have it in our pantry. And they wanted to go out there with their product on the market and say, hey, by the way, we don't talk about our product attribute, but we're talking about the user, right? So you wanted to show that there is a user for this product who would love this. So easy, you mean a woman can open it? This was a real ad. This is a real ad, 1950s, right? So with the ketchup bottle and the woman, you mean a woman can open it, right? So the product attribute, the product user was, well, 1960 Kenwood. Again, chef. I'm giving my wife a Kenwood. The chef does everything but cook. That's what wives are for.
And women like that? They were like, yeah.
Yes, 1960s.
They really liked it.
They really like that. These are, valid advertising campaigns. Let's look at this one, okay? So remember, we can set ourselves apart by the product attributes or by the user.
You know what the biggest part of my summer wardrobe is? My skin. It's really got to look terrific. That's why I use Johnson's baby oil. It gives my neck, shoulders, and arms a soft, silky glow. And after shaving, Johnson's baby oil makes my legs so smooth, it looks like I'm wearing stockings. Beautiful. In fact, in the summer, I don't really feel dressed without it.
Johnson's baby oil, grow into a summer beauty oil.
So it's not for babies, it's for babes, right? So we take the same product and we show a new user, right, of the product. I haven't changed anything about the product. My product attributes are the same. Everything is the same. It's just that now I'm creating my own space here, right? Babes versus babies. And Go out there on the market. Okay, what else we have? Positioning with respect to the product category, right? So product category. In this particular case, we're talking about transportation. So product category transportation would be cars, automobiles, trains, plane, ships. Right. Now, Amtrak was, and they still have a problem, right? Nobody likes to travel by train. Maybe because we don't have trains anymore, you know. I would love to travel, but there's no train available, you know, at least here. So they created this campaign in which they wanted to position themselves against their competitor, you know, in a product category, saying that, hey, by the way, this particular product is less likely to give you the troubles that you have with the other types of products, such as take the roads less frazzled, right? When it comes to traveling by train, you don't have to worry about, you know, all the traffic and all the, you know, problems that may have. Or traffic, what traffic? No traffic. It worked out for them, you know, in the sense that it did increase, you know, awareness. But again, I think their problem is simply because they don't have the product available, even though, you know, they would increase the perception of customers about traveling by train. Now, when 7-Up first came into existence, okay, there was only a big cola available, you know, a big sea of cola products available. That's what I wanted to say. Okay. Now they came with a fizz that was clear, and it didn't have caffeine, it didn't have cocaine, it didn't have codeine and all that, right? And they didn't know how to tell people about it. So for them, it was a big problem. And they searched and they searched, and they realized that the only way they can describe the product in such a way that it can actually be accepted was saying that, hey, 7-Up is the cola. That's it. That's what we know. And guess what? It was extremely successful. And actually, this particular strategy, right, positioning against the product, right, like cola, cola, was copied by other current brands like T-Mobile, the carrier, right? The carrier, or when the smart card first appeared, you know, if you search for their ads on YouTube, you will see that their ad finished with the car, you know, because they're so small and people didn't know exactly what this kind of a product. So the easiest way is the cola. It actually worked out very well for them, right? The car. Sometimes, right, positioning, remember, by product usage.
Always different, always you. Fashionable. Water resistant. Shock resistant. That's what it's made. Swatch, the new wave in Swiss watches.
So up until Swatch, the watch was what? Again, a utilitarian product that's used in there, and then for like, oh my God, you can actually use this as a jewelry, right? So complete positioning based on usage. So it really is based on the creativity of the creative agency, right? Of the advertising agency that wants to communicate about it. But in general, like I said, when it comes to positioning, this is what we kind of, play with. For example, 7-Up, I was just noticing today, they have a problem. Their popularity is not that great anymore, right? So their usage is obviously slipping. So some of the latest ads are showing people how we can use 7-Up for cooking. I don't know if you guys seen these ads. If I have to 7-Up in the kitchen.
Just video them.
2017. 2017. Well,
That's how we make, in Scouts, that's how we make our cobbler. We take our cake mix, pour in a 2 liter of Sprite, stir it up, and put it in the Dutch oven, and it's really good.
okay, well, apparently they caught on to that because you can see this is, this is the original communique for 7-Up, February 2017, so it's the past, year. Simply because, like I said, they are in a little bit of slump, right? So not too many people are drinking 7-Up. And actually, the change of usage goes, right? Repositioning the product so that we can extend its life. So what we guys did, right? We do this perceptual mapping, which is what we play. Another way of actually extending this perceptual mapping is adding a different dimension to the map per se. And that dimension is given by the size of the market share of the competitors, right? So when we guys played with this, we just positioned this on the market, but it didn't actually give us information about how strong, right, and how competitive that particular quadrant is, right? So one way, if you can use this, or if you want to use this, you can add how strong the competition is in that particular segment or in that particular quadrant, just to have an idea, right? And in this particular case, for example, when it comes to the other, to soap, right, we can have high and low moisturizing soap, which actually matter for people, and whether they are fragrant or not. A lot of people are extremely sensitive, right, to fragrances lately. Well, anyways, how about based on this information, right, considering that we have, for example, Dial has been #1 competitor in this soap or deodorant market, what do you think about this quadrant that is so empty here? Is it truly empty for a reason, or, this would be kind of a trap? What would you think?
Sounds like it doesn't work.
Or there's no benefits to it.
There's no benefit, exactly. Sometimes it's as simple as that. I mean, why would someone want no moisturizing and non-deodorant, right? There's no benefit. So yeah, do not fall into the trap of just because it looks empty, right? Compared to the drinks where you can immediately come up with Kool-Aid or whatever it is, right? Sometimes it can simply be a trap.
What's the size of the circles? Is that sales or what's the?
Yeah, market share. Market share. You can use whatever you want, so you can take this at any level you want. You can use margin if you know. And then, by the way, that would be actually a better indication whether we want to move into a quadrant, right? If there's competition. If the margin is pretty low, then maybe it's not that interesting, right? But if the margin of the competitor is pretty high, then that's a very, profitable, quadrant, profitable space. So you want to move it on that. Yes, please.
Could we argue that most of the other pieces time moisturizing and deodorant only pertains to certain markets? There's just certain markets honestly just having the ability to have soap. It's all they really need. They're not really concerned about the scent or if it's moisturizing. So I think it's still an opportunity. It's just a different market.
That's the job of the marketing manager, to look and see how many people would prefer this, if there is a large enough segment to make enough money, and what would be the money, right? That they are. Yes, please.
So is that in the links, do we do research to find out what everybody else's margin is, or is that one of the options to do that?
I don't think you can find out everybody else's margin.
Right.
No, you can't.
But is that in the real world you can do that?
Exactly, yes, yes. You had your hand up?
No, it's scratching
Sometimes we can use
He
this
needs better
position.
soap.
I was just a little lava brand, so
Lava brand.
So I do have a question. When would a company decide to relaunch, like change the formula? And when it's positioning? You know what I mean? Like as far as strategies.
Oh,
What
yeah.
would they base their decision on?
Actually,
Like positioning doesn't work, let's change the formula?
No, it doesn't work like that. It's a more complicated decision, and it has to do with product life cycle, and I hope I'll get to that topic. We can use this positioning map for what we call repositioning, and I don't know if you guys remember that ad with Kate Walsh. Okay. Let me play that because it's just so nice.
In today's luxury game, the question isn't whether or not your car has available features like a 40 gig hard drive. It isn't about sunroofs or Sapelli accents, pop-up nav screens, or any of that. No, the real question is, when you turn your car on, does it return the
They were the marketing right Oh, we're not gonna be prepared.
In 82, your Northern California Toyota dealers had America's #1 in torque trucks. In 1983, the trucks were improved. More improvements in 84. By 1985, this Toyota truck was better looking, more comfortable, more powerful. But the best improvement is something that didn't change at all. The sticker price. It's exactly the same as it was way back in 1982. What will you do with all the money you save? Kim will back Monday at 7:30. CBS Sports coverage of the National Football League is sponsored by Cadillac Motor Car Division and your Cadillac dealer. Best of all, it's a Cadillac. Miller Highlight. Welcome to.
Sorry, that's not exactly what I wanted to say, but to show you. But in the 80s, the Cadillac commercials were all about, like those people, like, all about, how do you call those? The yuppies, right? It was all about the yuppies and, young couples having money, making money, going out there. So Cadillac had this idea of young people, going out there to kind of enjoy life. And then from the 1980s to Kate Walsh, right, it was a big, big change in terms of image, because it turned out that when people were talking about Cadillac, they would see Cadillac as a conservative and very classy, yes, distinctive, but, kind of a boring car, So they decided, in the 2000 to kind of change this positioning. And again, they took Kate Walsh and they made it sexy. So they went from conservative to sporty. They still maintained the class distinction of the image, but they actually were very successful in what they did. A lot of women, right? So they changed their segment, right, from couples and couples and family to women. And women actually are number one, buyers of Cadillacs. Very successful for them, and Kate Walsh, kind of worked out. Any questions about this positioning and repositioning, and maybe with respect to how you use this for your links? I just wanted to have our discussion at length because It is one of the toughest discussion in marketing about segmentation and positioning and how are they different and how are they similar. And I was hoping that maybe you guys are clear or clearer now.
Yes.
You are, okay, that is great. And I have another exercise prepared for you, but I'm not sure. Or maybe we can do it because it kind of puts, it, links together and kind of brings together everything about segmentation, targeting, and positioning, and how we learn, learning all these different segments and different positioning, how we can apply it to a small company, like a small niche company. And I wanted you to maybe take, 5-10 minutes and discuss how a small firm serving a particular niche market can successfully compete with larger global firms with greater resources. For example, in this case, a small bookstore owner compete with Barnes & Noble and Amazon.com. I want you to think about it because in the end, right, think about, positioning. You cannot really outspend Amazon, right? We cannot outspend Amazon. So we have a problem. We can't just go out there and do advertising, right? So is there an alternative, or we're just gonna just lay down and die, since if we have a small business? Is there a way that we kind of circumvent? So I was hoping to give you maybe 5-10 minutes to think about it, and we can discuss it in class. Would you guys be willing to do that? Thank you. I just want to say that not everything is lost. We don't have to have money. Always.
Are you gonna do this one or are you gonna find
Come on.
Opportunity to open up words.
Anyway, so that's something we can just it's kind of a classroom thing.
But they want you to sign up.
the hard to find all the something like
I guess like
You know what I was thinking? It reminded me to, if you remember, like Netflix was started even before the red box, the kiosks and all that. You would sign up online and then you would place your order and then you would get it in the mail. You don't even have a page to go to. You just place it online and then it comes emailed or like the media. It's free and it comes with a return when you're done. Like, let's say you have a membership.
I used to.
I do with the pay for the membership. Find the membership and you need like 2-3 books and it could be novels, it could be school books, it could be kids books, it could be garden, hobbies, arts, cars, whatever. And all it does is that you fill out.
Yeah.
It's not free books. Where they would mail to you the disc, watch the movie, like in your case, you lost it or you couldn't find it, or you kept it for a year. So that prevented you from, because you didn't have the return. So something similar where you keep the books and you have not.
Okay. So you heard of that?
1 or 2 books.
Okay. So yeah. You'd have to have the service component. Their service at Amazon. Because it's a mass marketing measure. They have so much.
Yeah, but it's counts.
They have those rights, so they have everything else.
They have merchandise. Yeah, great presence.
They do that with all the missions. It's like if you go to someone.
It's like, yeah. Right, that's an impulse. So, yeah.
Dark, so you can't really see how to see afterwards.
So less mainstream and more feeling of something.
But like about like when you go into vampire sex guns, sure, so well, there might be a lot of like what we've been trying to do. And we have a lot of sell all the time. They turn over every month. We have hundreds of products to sell. They sit there forever, so they worry about that. Same time, but it's just like a basketball team, 12 players on the team. If you didn't have any more stuff, you wouldn't win. So it's just focus on.
So what are they like demo games afterwards? So they have like.
You guys talk to Monica, each of them, okay, because they're, I feel like there's some things that are like, the other ones. So do you have with them? Good, sure. Not like. Yeah, I'm sure what you guys need and what we need better. You're still like, super like young. Crazy. So, I'm sure. But they're not like normal things, you know. Anyway,
Yeah, that's the way we do it. But the story itself is, yeah.
In order to offer those protections.
That's what you decide what you're selling.
I wish I would have done I just read a brand new small bookstore. Oh, I had to.
Now you don't look at
I get a basket of vegetables, you know, every other week. Like some, and then somewhere between parents and kids.
Yeah.
I have that much hard talking to that's slow, but, huh?
I tried it.
But that's what you pick up, like little stores like that.
It's called the Mason Greens. And so they were using and it's
They're gonna take over a city pretty soon.
But just for example, right.
So they have their own certification. Yeah, you. No, but in places like that,
Right outside.
Okay, so how's it going, guys? Can we kind of put up something on the board, maybe? No, I'm worried about that just yet.
Yeah, we put it on.
What was the question?
The question, the question was to discuss how can a small company, right, a niche company, can successfully compete with a larger global competitor. And in that particular case, a small bookstore, what would be something that a small bookstore would need to consider in order to still be on the market, even though Amazon and Barnes & Noble are there, right? Yes, please.
Location of the store. I have an example of, you know, how Starbucks kind of took over the coffee, but when I was in Florida, we had a little mom and pop store, and it was right on a lake, and it just drew a huge crowd because, you know, just it was beautiful to be there and things like that. So I think location matters.
Okay. I'm gonna write it down here. location. How about we start with this? Did you guys have had any trouble actually defining the parameters of the question, such as a small company, a niche company, and then successfully compete? Was that clear for everybody? Well, can you please explain to me what you understood by that? It's very interesting to see, how maybe the same words, right, have a different, again, understanding of people. Yes, please.
Well, when it said niche, so it said, okay, so our bookstore would be focused on a specific type of event or experience type of book.
Right. Okay, so you understood that we're talking about a niche company, which really means a very well-defined segment, and that's great, right? So if it comes to coming up with any sort of an idea, right, number one is we need to know if there is a market, right? So you guys consider that, hey, actually, probably in this particular industry, right, it's not out of the realm of possibility to actually exist smaller segments which are profitable, right, for a bookstore, right? So unfortunately, over and over again, I see when people are asking me, oh, what about my idea, or what about my idea, or what about my idea? Because they met a person, or they met someone that would be interested in that. And my question is always, how big is that segment? How big is that segment? So, yes, please.
So to elaborate on that, we're thinking more of like lifestyle. So like we're thinking about gearing it more towards around home, which could hit different demographics. Okay, so you could do like a DIY section, you could do a child section, you could do a cooking book section, and then you would be interactive with it. So like if kids want to come and learn how to build cars, there's a section for books to build cars, and then they actually build a car and have a character, or DIY, or have like a cooking segment that day. So now we're thinking even audience to appeal, and then like the DIY wouldn't just be for women and children, but DIY is as well.
Okay, I'm gonna write this down. Would that be something that you guys felt like, right? So that's what I was expecting, hoping that will come out actually from our discussion. So what happens today, and there's no mistake that when, for example, when Cadillac decided to reposition their car, they did not go with, okay, all this wonderful active product that they were there, okay. But they went with something that made us feel, right? And it was all about the sex. Does it turn you on? There was no mistake that they actually did that. Why? Because what happens in the world, in the world of marketing today, we are really moving towards what we call the experience economy, right? So we're moving away from, hey, this is the fastest car, or this watch really has all this, right? We're all about how we make people feel, or how do we go around, right? So my message towards you would be that today, because everybody believes in experiences, everything is fair game for everybody, whether you're a small company or a big company. If you're able to actually address the experience, right, you actually have a chance to compete. So you identify that you say, it's probably all about the experience. You're having all these people coming in and doing whatever it is that they're doing, cooking or painting or whatever it is, right? So connection. So that would be, great answer. So I was, kind of looking forward to say that we're now focusing in marketing experiences and not the product. We're done with the product. We're done. It's all about experiences. What else? So if for you it was location, but let me see, was that location something had to do with the fact that people would go and probably experience? Because I remember Florida, and it's all about the experience in there, right? Seeing all the Fontesian, how do you call that? The fountain, right? Fontesian fountain. If they have a lake, they have a fountain. That's for sure, right? So even the location can actually fit into how we build the experience. What else?
the item, like what they're selling. Well, she touched on that a little bit, but maybe having things that you can't find in a Barnes and Noble or Amazon.
Okay. So product selection, unique product selection. Great. Again, does it fit into the experience? Absolutely, right? Because you're unique, each experience is unique, you have a unique needs, right? You might find it here. That doesn't mean that, you can't find it on eBay or, on Amazon, but it should be able to build up this experience. Jason?
Probably just another under the experience category, but the human element. And to lose that with these bigger companies, and so with these niche markets, you create this human element for life.
You are absolutely right. When it comes to experiences, you'll see that, and including in Las Vegas, right? It's all about how people treat people and how having some, individual, unique touch, right, helps us deliver, that experience that allows us to still be on the market. Because, if we all compete on money and the low cost, what will happen? I mean, right? We're done. So again, nothing is still lost, or nothing is all lost. What else? What you guys found out that could be something that is critical? Yes, please.
We touched on like customer satisfaction and support.
Okay, customer satisfaction and loyalty.
Right.
Apple is appropriating 92% of the entire profits on the smartphone market, okay? They only sell less than 20% of the units on the smartphone market. Sell 20%, appropriate 92%. The reason is that the customer satisfaction and customer loyalty scores, if you ask them, they're in the 98 and 99 percentile. They just love it. Whatever, when they have it, they just love it, and that's it. There's no, you have, the Samsung and all that. As long as you're not in the 98 and 99, there you go, appropriating 16 to 20%, Unbelievable.
I was thinking more, maybe not on to go out away from experience, but I guess it could go to experience is the resources component of how they could stay competitive. I was just thinking their website has to be very well put together and maybe even interactive. It has to be, I feel like a source because people might not know about them, so they have to be able to be found on Google. But we've said investing in the website would be really critical too.
Right.
Well, the unique, bring the nation to the website.
So, seamless plus integrated, right? Usually, we call this online. This integration, seamless integration in between the website and the real life store, the physical store, or whatever, different ways of distributing or presenting our product. The easier it is to look on your cell phone and then go to store and actually pick it up or read it out there while, creating your own, cooking stuff.
Well, Eric even just said, broadcasting it on the website, how you get these pop-up segments, a teaser almost, like a trailer, if you will, for a DIY or a book review on it. Really look at this.
Right.
Yeah.
And yes.
It could be like a subscription book sharing experience. So let's say the physical bookstore, you pay a small percentage amount for the entire month.
Okay.
You can have you can share the books. You can also create a forum for discussion. You can host like an event all within one. Only it's people who can actually be that part.
Right. Any kind of makes sense, right? If we're talking about this experience, which is seamless, and you have a niche that you're supposed to have some sort of revenue that is coming over, right? Having a subscription is not a bad idea at all. And again,
but always argue that the book share price is most important. We see it only because with Amazon you have to go in and buy a book. Versus in this case, you can literally just request a book that you can just send it over to you for free, but you can pay monthly for that service.
Right. Okay, yes, please.
Yeah, just to add to that, because that's, me and my group talked about that too, because it's impossible to underprice Amazon. So.
It's really impossible
to underprice Amazon.
Underprice, exactly.
So you, like, we're thinking of other ways that we could offer books and without like a rental system, just because like, people are gonna walk in, see the prices and be like, well, I can just get this on Amazon for half the price.
Yeah, there is a model right now which is getting extreme success in Europe, in which you have books delivered. So these people started out with, their own little library, and they literally, come and they deliver the book to your house, and apparently they have, a lot of success because people apparently tend to like that. So, maybe for a little bit of more money, but yeah, you cannot out Amazon. That's it. But that, again, that doesn't mean that, we're done. I mean, this is not easy. Yeah.
You could also maybe focus on one small market might be the traditionalist, who I know it's much easier to get a book online, but there are people who still actually holding the book. And you could like look at that too.
That is, yes. That is crazy. But again, all you guys came up and you're talking about, setting ourselves apart, right? It is about setting ourselves. There is no way, right? We can do it unless there is some sort of very clear positioning. That, setting ourselves apart in, no matter how big or how small the company is. So sometimes remember, just because we are a small company, or if we have a small market share, that doesn't mean everything is done for us. Actually, market share or even the size, it is probably one of the most valuable measures of marketing effectiveness that there is. We still play with it, but unfortunately or fortunately, we're getting smarter about it and realize that it's just an indicator there that we can use in conjunction with others. So market share, and you probably are very familiar with it. It's a company sales, right? Expressed as a percentage of the sales for the total industry. And just bear with me here, I'm not gonna actually ask you to actually calculate it, but let's say that we have 3 firms on the market, P. Diddy, Puff Daddy, and Diddy, Okay. P. Diddy, because right now apparently he's crazy.
With marketing and the clothing and perfume.
So he has a different.
Can you say that again? That was just fun to listen.
P. Diddy, Puff Daddy, and Diddy. P. Diddy sells 40 units, Puff sells 50 units, and Diddy sells 10 units. What would be the market share, for all the 3 firms? This is just, because it's funny. I'm a metalhead, and when it comes to Puff Daddy and Jay-Z, that's why I tend to make fun of them. So we would obviously have 40%, 50%, and then 10%, market share, easy. Now, market share is not that interesting. There's another thing that is interesting, which is called relative market share, which, and I don't know if you guys work with it, but it's another indicator that tells us if you about the effectiveness of our company and how good we are to appropriate market share compared to our biggest competitor. So relative market share is, of course, the market share of the specific brand, right, divided by the market share of the leader in the industry, right? So that tells me, how good I am relative to you, how good I am relative to you. And we can play, I'm sorry, we can play the same game here and calculating the relative market share. When we have a company that enjoys 50% market share, then a second one, you can calculate the relative market share and divide it by 50, right? Or Decker, the third, we can calculate the relative market share of Decker, 10 divided by, again, 50, right? Because 50 is the market share of the leader in the industry. The important thing is that it gives us a different type of information that we can use to this. I don't know how many of you guys are familiar with BCG, or Boston Consulting Group. In the world of consulting, when you have enough money to waste on a team of, 20-year-olds that, cost you $10,000 a day, okay, they are number one. So it's BCG and McKinsey. Okay, so these guys literally are number one in the consulting industry. So if you're a company and you don't know exactly what to do, and you maybe want to, sell some assets or buy someone or reposition or divide, or divest some product, and you have money to waste, you call someone from BCG. Okay, usually they have all these Harvard and Yale grads. Okay, that work for them on average, around 23, 24-year-olds, because it's kind of difficult. Now they have one single business model, and this business model is based on a matrix or a tool. It's a tool that they invented, maybe 30 years ago. And this tool says, look, if we take these two indicators that I was telling you about, market share and relative market share, and then you also look at how fast the industry, you're playing it, grows, and you put these things together in a 2x2 matrix, I can tell you is the highest, right? Because this is the leader, right? So it's a number in between what? One, let's say, right? With this. Okay, so high relative market share is what? It's a high number, right? That's what it means, low relative market share. But what does it mean in words, right? The higher the number, it means that we are closest to the leader, right? So we're very similar. We're very, similar to our power and the share that we have on the market. Low, that means, hey, I'm not doing such a great thing, right? With respect to capturing market. So we have that. And we also have the industry growth, which is usually calculated year on year, right? If the industry has grown by 5% or 3% or 10% or whatever it is, I can also define that as being low industry growth. And we can define it arbitrarily by industry. For example, the grocery industry, if it grows with the inflation, let's say 2%, right? Year on year increase, right? That's great, that would be probably the high level of industry growth. And 0.05, that would be defining low. Whereas if I'm looking at the tablet industry, which used to grow to, maybe 35 to 40%, right, year on year, then guess what? We have different types of numbers here. So that means we definitely arbitrarily choose what is high, what it means to be high, what it means to be low. Now, at the intersection of all this, we have 4 types of products, or we have 4 types of businesses, or we have 4 types of brands that we can play with. When a brand is having a low relative market share, right? So it's not doing really good. in an industry that is kind of stagnant, is low growth rate, right? We call that particular product or brand to be a dog. And I think I have another picture here, which is nicer, you know. It has low growth potential, it has low market share, so it's not kind of bringing me, a lot of future hopes, if you want. We call that a dog. However, we have, for example, the same idea of low market share, but in an industry which is actually growing fast. And that's good news for me, because that means I have potential to what? Accumulate, right? From whatever growth of that industry is. And we call those particular brands or products or whatever as question marks, because they have not achieved their potential yet, right? But as long as the industry is growing, we have a chance of actually making some money with those. Now, those are for the low market share. But hey, maybe we are in a very strong position on the market. So we're not that far away from the leader, right? And we may be in a high market share, so high relative market share, but our industry is really not growing. It's a stagnant industry, it's a mature industry. Think TVs, think, all these industries that are now mature. We have a product which is very well established on the market. The market is mature, there's no change there. I have a good, good market share there. We call those brands or products or SBUs, strategic business units or company, right? A cash cow or cow, right? We like cash cow because as long as we can hold them right in that position, not losing market share and milk them, then hey, guess what? They bring us a lot of money. And then we have the stars, and we would love to have a lot of stars in our portfolios that have a potential high market share in an industry that is growing really, really fast, which means that it's not that I'm making money, but also I have the potential to make a lot of money. And if you're interested in how, for example, for this Kellogg's, how this VCG matrix looks like, basically the cash cows are the Pringles and Pop-Tarts. Everybody loves that, right? Everybody has that. They're on the market since forever. The industry is really low here, right? There's not a lot of innovation that is happening. The states are pretty stable because we haven't, started to hate on them yet. If I want to say them, then it's gonna be a problem, right? This is increasing a little bit faster. But they make their money out of that. And with this money, they're able to obviously, kind of support wasting a little bit of money on these dogs here, breakfast weights, which you don't really see a lot. They have their stars based on customer preferences, right? Because we all love this new, natural, healthy kind of trends. So they have the Nutri Delights, the Nutty Delights, and this more wholesome kind of products. They tend to do much better. And then some weird products that they play with, they haven't experimented in products all the time. Now, what do we do once we looked at all the products or the brands or the businesses that we have in our portfolio? Once we put them in a 2x2 matrix, right? Because we're looking at what is happening with the relative, and then we place them. Once we place them, we have 4 different strategies that we can play. And this is what you guys can do actually in your link simulation. The 4 strategies that we can play with, or what we can do once we placed our products or brands in a BCG matrix, is build. So I'm just gonna, list them: build, hold, harvest, and divest. Build, which really means investing money in it so that you take it from in a not so favorable position to a favorable position. For example, if you don't want to give up on the dog, if you want to invest a little bit and maybe transform it into a